I'm Deborah Walker, and welcome to another installment of Grand Designs, Breaking Barriers and Building Bridges. During this episode, we will explore the role of rap and hip-hop and how the evolution of African American music transitions to a culture, a lifestyle, and a new generation of the 21st century. Starting in the 1950s, it was black rhythm and blues that influenced white artists and rock and roll. But now the influence on white music comes primarily from hip-hop. When hip-hop music first came about in the late 1970s, not many people knew about it. It was created in the poorest district of New York City by African Americans and Latino teenagers as part of a hip-hop scene that also produced breakdancing and graffiti art. Many of these young people were unemployed, but some found work as DJs in discos, where they learned DJing techniques like how to use 2 turntables and a DJ mixer to play records nonstop. Sometimes they would also DJ at free block parties in their neighborhoods where they would play funk and disco tracks nonstop and asked a friend to act as an MC. Rappers like LL Cool J began creating hip-hop singles with catchy melody hooks. New York duo Run DMC also used hooks in their songs, but added hard rock guitars to create a popular style called rap rock. Their 1986 album, Raising Hell, became hip-hop's first top 10 album when punk rock group Beastie Boys began shouting rap instead of singing. Their style became very popular, and their debut album, Licensed to Ill, became hip-hop's first #1 album. Joining us for a discussion of hip-hop are Christian rappers Soldiers for Christ, but first let's hear from Soup du Jour from Low Hanging Fruit, who discusses the influence on his hip-hop group.
I am Soup du Jour. My stage name stands for Spectrum of United People, and I am one artist of 3 musicians in a group called Low Hanging Fruit. And Low Hanging Fruit is a group of 3 guys. I'm from Park Hill, Colorado. My producer is from the Bay Area, and the other rapper is from Rye, New York area. And so we just came together about 4 years ago as a collective of students in Boulder and started a musical group together. And from there we just never looked back. We've done shows from around the world, about 50 shows in 4 years, spanning from Hawaii to Madrid. We went to Madrid and did some shows and did some videos in Paris as well. So that's a little background on Low Hanging Fruit and where we come from. We are currently just living in different areas right now, still making music, but kind of laying low with the show performances and things like that due to COVID-19. And some of my personal biggest influences in hip hop, I would have to say my #1, if I had to put a #1 spot, would be Nipsey Hussle is my biggest influence. And my group, they probably had their own artist or group, whoever they would choose from. But from my experience in my lifetime and artists that I got to see personally, definitely Nipsey Hussle. Just the words and encouragement he spoke while he was here, and the way he went about his music and in business was very like-minded to what I do and what I like to continue to do with my own music. So that's why I say he was my #1 mentor, reference, whatever you want to call it, my favorite artist, all of that. The breakup, the musical components of R&B absolutely have influenced Low Hanging Fruit sound in that the instruments that we use, the flows, and also the use of female voices in our music is something that's evident in our hip hop music. So you could definitely see that crossover, especially in the song called "Man Now." But "Man Now," you'll see that we have some female voices in our music that kind of drive that R&B and give it some soul to it. Absolutely. There's some correlation and connection between all of this. Music as an art form, really music stemming back to even before R&B to blues and Negro spirituals, really stemming all the way back. You can see connection through the music and the communication, really as a form of communication for oppressed people, minorities, and female voices, usually people of oppression. So through musical forms, connecting and using that as a platform, you can see how there is connection between hip hop, R&B, and rap music. I think it all stems from that base root, a foundation of it being a communication linguistic and dynamic for artists to convey what they want to and what they're feeling and what they're going through. And that happens in all forms now that you see today. It comes out in blues, it comes out in hip hop, it comes out in hardcore rap, punk. There's a lot of different subgenres that people have taken in these days. Interesting to note. Interesting. Hip hop definitely is a culture in that's how it originated, because you had hip hop started in the Bronx, and you had people coming together. You had DJs first who was scratching on records, and then here comes the MC who actually was just, got on the microphone to keep the party going, really. And then it turned into this kind of rapping thing. You also had the B-boys, you know what I'm saying? They were breakdancing in the party that the DJs were scratching, and this is in the basement of the Bronx. And so it was a whole culture. It really started as that, and it started as that. And now hip hop today is another conversation. You could talk about the corporate side of hip hop all day, really, because you can see it. You can see how it's been manipulated in terms of things. But I'm talking about the root essence of hip hop is definitely a culture over just the genre of music, because it brought people together. It literally, people's houses was getting torn down and bombarded in the Bronx, and they had to move into these places and duck out. And so how did they come together? Well, they got these things called hip hop started, you know what I'm saying? This thing called hip hop. And it grew into what we see in today. And a lot of people have took it for what it is and used it to their advantage. A lot of institutions and music labels, right? And they changed it to what they want to do and how they can make money off of it. But it's interesting to see the both sides of hip hop and how its usage is so dynamic. But yeah, that's just a little bit. I definitely think it's a culture though.
I made it right on Marines. Drum set, don't crash, keep it clapping. Let me show you how quick it can happen. You can get the money on the back end. Backyard show with the lasers. Shorty throw it back like pages. 751, don't call me. Swoop on the track, keep it running like on me. Keep it running in my bag, I'm looking for chess. Now that I'm gone, I'm done with the rest. I'm done with the stress, I gave it my all. Double my pockets, now I got a ball. Turn your life around the flip of the gimbal. I got the drift, but I'm looking for symbols. You doubling too, but you double a dribble. Rap is a riddle, a couple of skittles.
I would definitely say to elevate your game, you gotta do your due diligent research on what you're pursuing, because a lot of today is just so information is easily tossed out there. So I say be careful of what you read and really research what you're doing. If it's hip hop, understand it. You know what I'm saying? Really understand it. It's not necessarily all about this turned up hype, fun all the time music. You know what I'm saying? It's got a real essence and meaning to it. So I would challenge you to elevate your game by doing some research and then be you. That's my last thing. You know what I'm saying? There's so many different artists out there that you could follow and you could model your style after. But after, 4 years of being in hip hop and traveling the world, my best advice is just to authentically be you and find that, you know what I'm saying? And fight for that and fight for your identity and fight for your right to use your voice and be creative and also be an ally for your partners. You know what I'm saying? Especially in these times right now is what I would tell my bandmates if they was here right now, they understand that right now is a time where because of my skin color, even highlighted because of the mass media and how fast it gets out there. I got to talk about that. I need you guys to stand in front of me and be my allies and speak for me on these injustices that I go through as well. It can't be all this fun party hoorah stuff all the time. It's got to be, we got to talk about this. You know what I'm saying? This is what platform is really for. So have fun with it. Be yourself. Enjoy it. It's a process, but stay true. You know what I'm saying? Stay true to yourself and what hip hop truly is.
My name is Showcase. This is my beautiful wife, Purpose. And my journey to hip hop started back when I was about 13. That's when I wrote my first song. And I really got I really fell in love with hip hop at an early age, and then growing up, being inspired by some of the hip hop legends that I grew up in my environment. Growing up in the urban community, hip hop was a avenue for us to kind of help relieve some of the stress that we dealt with from day to day.
I fell into hip hop when I was a younger kid as well, and being introduced to all genres, honestly, of music, and then hip hop comes along, and the new dancing techniques and contemporary dance was, pretty much introduced at that time. So Boogie Down Productions, things like that, is just things that we in my neighborhood rather, grew up listening to.
I was born in Louisiana, in Shreveport, Louisiana, but I moved to California when I was about 13. And that's when I first heard Tupac Shakur. So listening to Tupac, then I heard Notorious B.I.G., Biggie Smalls. You got Nas, you got Jay-Z, you got all of the hip hop legends that kind of set the platform for my particular generation in the early 90s. So those are some of the guys I grew up listening to and still admire to today.
Definitely Tupac. He was a great artist, and he was just very poetic. And like I said, Boogie Down Productions. Oh my man, Pharrell. Let me see, Digital Underground. All of them. They just contributed to me just having such a mutual respect and love for hip hop, and influenced me quite a bit. Well, my mother sings, beautiful voice, sang in the choir, and I'm originally from Florida, so I grew up listening to Stephanie Mills, Anita Baker, Shaka Khan, all of those ladies who had just this soulful type of songs that they sung. And so when it came down to as far as who I gravitated to, those were the women that I gravitated because of my mother. So as far as singing, then came along hip hop to mix and intertwine with that, and then Lauryn Hill brought a different thing, and Jill Scott brought a different thing, and Lettucey brought her components to it, and I'm like, oh, okay, so you have this marital blend between hip hop and R&B, and I don't believe it's just an African in the African community anymore. Tori Kelly, she has this beautiful soulful voice, and I'm not exactly sure where she's from, but the girl can sing.
I feel that R&B now has its own genre, and then you have the rap part of hip hop, which has its own genre. So R&B got so big now, it has its own lane. So when you deal with different artists, a different artist could dip in and out of genre in hip hop. Hip hop is a culture, and in that culture, you have varieties of genres of different type of music, and you could categorize those type of music in different categories. And an example of that would be R&B, and it would be hip hop, and those would be considered two different type of genres inside of the same culture.
You can listen to the lyrics of Marvin Gaye, and they were very sensual and everything. And then now you listen to some lyrics that some R&B singers do, and it's definitely, oh gosh, for lack of a better word, is highly sexual. So I just when I mean involved, there used to be meaning to the lyrics back then and a lot of the music, and now I don't see it evolving into great lyricists and musicianship nowadays. So I don't really listen to a lot of the new age R&B and some of even the hip hop.
Well, if you think about it, when we was growing up and the music we listened to, our parents said the same thing Latrice is saying now to the new generation. And I believe that
that's a good point.
When the new generation get older and they become adults, they're not gonna like the music that their kids listening to. So every generation brings a different aspect of hip hop than the generation before. And the first generation is so used to a certain type of music, they're not going to want to adapt to the new type of music that's out there. And that's been going on for years, where parents don't like their kids' music, then the kids get grown and they don't like their kids' music. So that's always been a factor.
So I'm going to take it to a song that En Vogue, because En Vogue is another great group. The song Hold On, and I think I was about in middle school when that song came out, somewhere between middle school and high school. And so when the song came out, it was like, it was speaking about how to not, oh gosh, what's the word? It was speaking about how to conduct your relationship and how not to overcrowd a man and things of that nature. But here I am singing it because it was soulful and didn't know. Now my grandmother didn't mind because she wanted to nurture that, the arts in me, basically. But now that I listen back to it as a grown woman, I'm like, what in the world was I listening to? So I do believe that they have been blurred to an extent, and we need to pay attention to what our children, I think we need to pay just a little closer attention to what our children are listening to. I was sent to heaven.
I was sent to heaven with a book of scrolls. I was given prophecies that was never told. I seen a place where the people never get old. The flowers.
I feel that the African culture is still there, and that's what is attracting other cultures. Now, for example, when you listen to rap now, you just don't have African Americans doing the rapping. You got white artists. You got Chinese artists, you got Asian artists, you got Spanish artists. The African aspect of it was attractive to other races, and they kind of was a magnet to other races to come into the culture and be a part of it. So I think the influence is still there now today. If you really listen to some of the music that is still out there, there's still great music that reflect black people as a whole. But then, just like with anything, you got to accept the bad with the good.
Yeah, I definitely believe that it is the African community is influencing, the hip hop movement, but again, as I said earlier, influencing it to what degree? I was listening to some lyrics from an R&B rapper, R&B singer, rapper. I don't know what she exactly calls herself, but and I'm not gonna dog anybody, but I was listening to that and I'm like, whoa. And here we have middle school children listening to this, and I'm like, and they're just dancing and getting with it and everything, and I'm like, okay. But it was, for me as an adult, kind of distasteful, but that's what they're relating to. And so if they're relating to it, that means they're heavily influenced by it. And so where is the positive African influence in R&B and hip hop is where I'm trying to get at. Because when we listened to music back then, in the community I grew up in, we listened to everything from the horns to the strings and what they were saying, and then just literally dissected the whole body of that music. And it's not that nowadays. It's kind of evolving something else.
It's a corporation now. You got major corporations. They know that the negativity sells. So when you put out negativity music, which can influence our community with the type of music that is out there, that is what's selling records. That is what's making millions of dollars. So now music is becoming a business and all about corporations getting rich opposed to the art. And we need to bring it back to the art of what hip hop really was standing for, instead of just making money. For me, I grew up listening to Eminem. Eminem, what you call a real lyricist. He's witty with words, and to me, he brought wittiness and he brought lyricism, and he brought all these things to the table as a white artist, and he was accepted by the black community because he knew how to rap. It wasn't about him being white. It was that, man, this kid knows how to rap. And not only, another reason we related to him is because he'd been through some stuff in his life. You listen to his music, he talks about some stuff he'd been through. Now, there are certain things that we can't relate that Eminem talks about because of the culture that he grew up in. It's kind of different from the culture that the black community will grow up in. So there are certain things that we can't relate that he'll say that'll be off the wall. But when it comes to knowing how to rap, we accept him because that's what he do know how to do.
Who was that artist that recently, I think, crossed over country and rap? There was an artist, I can't remember who it was, but when they did that, I was like, finally. Because sometimes it takes, us to get past those barriers to see, okay, there is beauty in music, period. And music does not have a race. It does not have, a community. It has community, but it doesn't have it's not racist or anything else. There's country singers out there that I absolutely, think are just phenomenal. Carrie Underwood
even
being
Nelly,
one of them.
Nelly tried country.
Was that the one that I don't remember who it was, but
no, you know who Nelly is.
I do know who Nelly is.
Nelly
yes.
is a black artist, and he dipped in the country. So now you got the black community dipping into other cultures and other type of music as well, just like they're dipping into hip hop. Mm-hmm. Well, our music comes from a spiritual plane. We come from a positive standpoint. We try to do music that's uplifting. We try to do music that speaks to the soul and change lives. And what I would tell somebody who's doing the music, stay to yourself. Don't pretend. Don't try to be somebody else. Don't follow the trend. The name of our company is Black Sheep Entertainment because we always been black sheeps. We didn't follow the crowd. We stayed in our lane. So that's one thing I would definitely tell the youth. Be you and don't be afraid to be you. And if positivity is part of your life, that's what your music should be about.
Former NWA member Ice Cube released his classic gangsta album, Death Certificate, in 1991. And Tupac Shakur, or Tupac, released his own classic album, All Eyes on Me, before being killed in 1996. When Dr. Dre, another former NWA member, released his album, The Chronic, in 1991, G-Funk was heard for the first time. Hip-hop became a major genre of popular music in the 21st century, with hip-hop music singles and albums topping the chart worldwide. Local hip-hop scenes developed in many countries and produced successful artists like the UK Dizzy Rascal and Canada's Drake. Many female rappers also became successful, including Missy Elliott, Lil' Kim, Lauryn Hill, and Nicki Minaj. A collaboration between popular singer Charlie Puth and rapper Wiz Khalifa topped the charts in 96 countries in 2015. In the 1990s, most major artists were from New York or Los Angeles, but artists from the South became popular after 2000. They included the duo Outkast, who combined Southern soul grooves and riffs with clever, entertaining raps. Other popular artists from the South included Usher, T.I., Ludacris, and B.O.B. from Atlanta, 3 6 Mafia from Memphis, Bun B from Texas, and Lil Wayne from New Orleans. Most recently, Southern artists like Future and Young Thugs have been creating exciting new styles of alternative hip-hop. This concludes our installment of Breaking Barriers, Building Bridges, the role of rap and hip-hop culture in African American music. Please remember to tune in again as we continue this series, a journey of our history, heritage, culture, and triumphs. Thank you to our special guests, Roland and Latrice Graham, for Soldiers of Christ, and Soup du Jour from Low Hanging Fruit for being a part of this episode. And thank you for watching. Whatever you do, don't stop the music.
Don't forget your headlamp. Paddle boats until she damp, like I was forced to take a chance. No hesitation, wanna dance. Jacket or the jersey, I was cold but never turkey. When they said I wasn't worthy, untouchable, try to